NGE, Nobody Dies Chapter 7, Focal Shifts and Date Night, an Evangelion fanfic. As lunchtime rolled round, the token new student had garnered quite a following. When the morning classes started, the girl introduced herself, bowed, and promptly sat down next to Ikari. Questions were going around whether Miss Saru was the pilot of the red mecha that was unloaded yesterday, but she was tight-lipped. Still, she had a nice sass. That's what really piqued the interest of the group of grade 11 boys discussing the mysterious posterior of the mysterious transfer students, and what, if anything, they wanted to do about it. Gathered around under one of the trees in the schoolyard, conversation is bandied around as they watch her have lunch with Ikari, Haraki, and Suzuhara. Phrases such as "I would tap that" and "what's Ikari got that we don't?" are bandied about. Then, there is another phrase added into this conversation. Hee. The group turns, as one, to come into the crimson gaze of Rayanami. Eternally smiling, hands clasped behind her, she sways back and forth on her feet. "So," she says, "just wanna tell you, Asuka's my bestest friend. And if you touch her..." She narrows her eyes, only slightly. "I touch you." She smiles, rolling her shoulders with an audible crack. K. Chapter 7, Focal Shift and Date Night. Let's go over this again. The Evangelions were reworked in 2011 to have features locked away for the mental stability of the pilots. As synchronization increases, more features become available as the perspective of the pilot matches the perspective of the Evangelion. Ritsuko Akagi clicks the remote in her hand, the projection screen shifting into a cross-section of Unit 01, overlaid with its appearance during the fight with the Sixth Angel. Level 1 starts at 25% synchronization, which is the normal borderline for activation, and goes to 65%. This is your normal, entry-level capabilities. More or less, you are now in charge of a 200-tall giant robot. Level 2 goes from 66% to 85%, and features enhanced strength and speed, which couples with Level 3 at 86% to 105%, which has increased reaction time. The screen shifts again, this time to Unit 01 holding the massive triple-heavy mazer at Gakeel. Then get tricky. She is smiling as Re talks to her. Well, Re's method of speaking is usually speaking at someone instead of with them, but in this case the pale girl seems to be interested in Asuka's response. This is probably a good thing, Shinji muses. So, we have our sync tests, and when we're done with that, I was gonna go home. What about you two? Probably home, too, Shinji says, rolling his shoulders. I think I'm still tired from the past few days. Asuka smiles, averting Shinji's eyes. Re frowns, shrugs, and continues skipping along. The subject of the last night is not broached, but he doesn't seem to hold a grudge. Instead, he smiles at her, and she returns it, albeit shaky and unsure, her hands clasped together as they walk along the street leading towards the J-front, passing the artificial hilltop and the alarm towers. Ikari. The voice is loud and accented. Walking down the hillside street towards them, clad in his full uniform, Earl stops in front of him and snorts. Asuka visibly shrinks, leaning towards Re. Shinji sighs and affords Asuka a glance before turning to her brother. I would like to talk with you, third child, Earl says, puffing out his chest. And where are you going with her? Asuka shrinks more. Reflexively, Shinji's nostrils flare as he notices Earl is a good head taller than him, standing on his tiptoes to meet him in the eyes. Asuka, he says, is coming with me to the sync test, and then I'm walking her home. She is not nerve personnel. Then she's coming with me as a guest, Shinji responds, and in any case, she has the right. Because, last I remember, she helped me kill that last angel. So we're just going to say she's my co-pilot. Earl glares. Shinji smirks, folding his arms. Hey, he says, last I checked, Asuka has more experience fighting angels than you do, doesn't she? A grunt and his hand grabs the front of his white school shirt and picks him up. Asuka squeaks, Shinji grunts, and Ra goes silent. His shoulder hits the pavement when Errol drops him, the pale boy's face red, livid, steaming as he brings back his fist. Crack. One knuckle. Red eyes narrow as Asuka hears a second crack from Ra's hand. Then she sees it, the first sign of something being terribly, terribly wrong. Ra has stopped smiling. I should beat that smirk off your face. Stop. Yuri stops in mid-word. The air seems to chill 5 degrees. A small hint of teeth is shown in the last knuckles pop as Errol locks his gaze on Ra and finds his breath caught in his throat. Clearing his throat, slowly unclenching his fist, he suppresses the shudder and turns back to Shinji. Don't let me or mother catch you on base, Asuka, he growls. I will see you soon, third child. He marches off, swearing. Ra walks over, grabbing Shinji by the arm and yanking him to his feet. For someone who hasn't seen combat, he's pretty arrogant, he says. He's like that, Asuka says, forcing a smile. I should just go home. No, you're not, Shinji responds, not for him. I said I'd take you to Nerve, so I'm taking you to Nerve. If he has a problem with it, he can take it up with me, Ra, or my mother. Okay? She nods, turning to Ra, only to find her already skipping down the street towards Nerve. Her shoulders slump and a breath she didn't realize she was holding escapes. If he didn't stop, she says, what do you think Ara was going to do? I think, he responds, rubbing his shoulder, we don't want to find out. One of the benefits of working for a semi-clandestine organization with a theoretically unlimited budget is that all the ranking officers of Nerve have really nice phones. The phone that Misato uses in her official capacity of Tactical Ops Commander and 4th in command of Nerve has a touch screen, fast wireless, and was configured by her second as an email server. Considering that the predominant theory is that sync tests are mandated by the commander to give them something to do between angel attacks, it is with no guilt whatsoever that Misato clicks through emails as Dr. Ikari oversees the placement of the plugs in their 3 working IVAs. Hot date? Looking up, snorting, and giving the stink eye to her longtime friend, Misato turns back to the phone. Sitting in one of the back chairs of the pinbrow box, she says nothing as Ritsuko sits down next to her. Actually, yeah, Misato responds, Dr. Ikari already cleared it. I went on one of those dating websites and got a blind date for tonight. Right, Akagi says, folding her arms, watching as Yua directs Maya through the processes. What about the kids? Shinji said they'd be fine. He's tired, anyway, and Dr. Ikari wants to speak with Asuka after they're done here. Section 2 will give them a ride back, and I'm not planning to be out past 10. Answer me something, Misato says, clicking through messages. If Unit 01 can yank giant laser guns out of hammer space and form blazing sword to kick an angel's ass, how come it didn't do that before? Times like this, and Akagi wishes she could smoke indoors. Sighing, removing her glasses and rubbing the bridge of her nose, she thinks of a way to explain it that Misato would understand. If Shinji tried to access the Dirac Armory anywhere below 106% synchronization, it would fry his brain, she says. The higher the sync, the more the pilots are in tune with the EVA's perspective. They may have the proportions of a human, Misato, but the Evangelions are not human. The typical human brain cannot handle the higher level functions, but the EVA's can. Okay, we're ready here. The 2 old friends sigh. Misato slaps her knees and stands. Back to work we go. She is sitting in the guest chair, reading her college thesis when she enters her office. Asuka starts, closes the book, and puts it back on the shelf as Yui affords her a small smile, walking past her and over to her desk. Clicking the green button on the right side, the onboard computer starts up. Sitting in her chair, Shifting her seat to get comfortable, Yui folds her hands on her desk and takes a moment to look at the girl. "Come closer." Asuka nods, pulling the seat in front of the desk. Her lip is twitching, her hands folded but her pinky finger moves back and forth. Smoothing her hair back so the bangs do not fall over her face, she sees that the girl is nervous, but attentive. Asuka, Section 2 at all time keeps tabs on important personnel, Yui says, as you are the daughter of one of my chief scientists that includes you. So, please tell me what you were thinking when you went into my son's room, last night. Asuka's face turns down, head tilting as she wrings her hands. Did you try to take advantage of him? She asks. The voice lacks accusation. She knows the details, and just wants to hear them from Asuka. No. Did you want him to take advantage of you? Hesitation. More ringing, her shoulders shaking as, once more, she is put on the spot. Why yes. Why? I heard that my being close to him helped him against the angel. I thought if... Yui raises her hand. Asuka goes silent, shoulders tightening. I understand, she says, but listen, Asuka. Please. I appreciate your concern with Shinji, but that approach will not work with him. Who suggested that approach? I did, Asuka responds. Synchronization is partially affected by mental state and attachment to others. So, though. A small smile crosses Yui's face. A small chuckle makes Asuka look up, as Dr. Ikari taps buttons on her keypad and brings up the holographic image of a diagnostic report. Shinji's sync ratio is up to 67%, Yui explains. I can partially credit the fact that he has developed an attachment to you to explain that. It may even be that he likes having you around, Asuka, but I assure you of this, even though he is something of a celebrity, now, he is actually not quick to create attachments. Do you understand? She nods. Good. Now, I called you in here to ask you some questions. Answer them honestly. The hologram shifts, becoming a red sphere, cut in half, mathematical gibberish labeling cross-sections of layered material. What is this? I don't know. You do, Asuka, Yui says, folding her hands. We both know that you do. Again, what is this? I honestly don't know, Dr. Ikari. Asuka, I have biorhythmic sensors lining this office, and they tell me you are lying. Once more or I ship you back to Berlin. Tell me, what is this? Clenches her eyes shut, chattering teeth, as her knuckles turn white. It's the cross-section of the core of an Evangelion. The labels are for the solenoid-based crystals that make up the inner layer, storing the central intelligence. The outside is reinforced, which while leading to lower data storage reinforces the structural integrity of the inner core. Yui nods. Clicking another button, the diagram becomes a cross-section of a massive humanoid. Cross-section diagram of Unit 03. Each Evangelion from Unit 03 onward is based structurally on the construction of Unit 02. Click. A section surrounding the core of an Evangelion, sinew of cable leading around it. I don't know, but I can guess that is a data transfer relay, Asuka says, looking up at the diagram. Is it Unit 01? Correct, Yui says, clicking a button and causing the holograms to fade. Asuka, what is your bachelor's degree in? Evolutionary biology, she says, finding herself actually meeting Yui's gaze. Excellent, Yui says, nodding with a smile. Asuka, would you like to work with me? Her lips part, her mouth hanging open. Slowly, she nods. I need an additional assistant, Yui says. You have studied my notes and your mother's work. 3 days a week, after school, you will report to Nerve. You will act as my direct assistant and aid me with the projects I run as head of Project E. You will be given an ID, a stipend, and access under my supervisions to the Evangelions. Is this acceptable? She nods, quickly. Her eyes light up as her heart begins racing, sitting up straight in the chair. Yes, she says, Yes. Thank you, Dr. Ikari. Don't thank me yet, Yui says with a laugh. Now, get going. Shinji is waiting for you. Smiling, she stands, before walking out of the office and breaking into the run as the door closes behind her. Leaning on her hand, Yui watches the girl go, switching off the computer as she sighs. Don't thank me yet, Asuka, she says to herself, not when you see what I have planned for you. She keeps a nice dress in her office, which being in the closet she can find under the normal mess that occupies her workspace. The dress is a black, Chinese style that she bought with Ritsuko's recommendation, covering her cleavage but emphasizing her figure, not giving it away, as she said. Bomber jacket slung over her shoulder, holster on the inside of her thigh, Misato Katsuragi enters the Western-style restaurant, escorted into the busy dining area by a waiter who is 2 inches taller than her and, to Misato's flattery, checking out her ass. Problem is, this is a blind date. She doesn't know who she's looking for, either, so. Your table, miss. Red tablecloth, candle, a bottle of wine in a cooler and a menu accompanied by the date's grin, stubble-covered chin and ponytail completing the nightmarish portrait of what she's just walked into. Silence hangs between them, him tapping his fingers on the table. Hey, Katsuragi, Yoji Kaji says, small world, isn't it? Knuckles crack. Like you wouldn't believe. Have you ever been out of the country? Turning from the wok, he shrugs, turning back to the simmering vegetables as she finishes spreading her homework around the living room floor. Outside of going on the aircraft carrier, no, he responds, at least, not that I remember. Mom did say she's met with your mother before, so it might have been when I was a little kid. Asuka thinks, shrugs, and turns back to the math homework. I'm pretty sure my mother would come here, she says, this is Nerve Central, after all. He nods, shrugs, and continues working the vegetables, checking the pan with the fish in it before turning to the cupboard and taking out 2 plates. Placing them on the low table, for once cleared of garbage thanks to a thorough cleaning, he empties the contents of the pans onto the plates before sitting down. So, tomorrow's Saturday, Asuka says, sitting across from him, what do you do on Saturdays? I was planning to go to the nerve hospital, he responds, picking at the rice with his chopsticks, and visit Hikari's sister. You can come, if you want. I guess so, she says with a small, nervous smile. I have to study Dr. Hikari's notes about her work, but I think I have time. Great. I'm sure she'll like the company, he says, mixing the vegetables. So. They both sigh. Waiting long moments, trying to find something to speak about, Asuka finally bites the bullet and looks up. I'm sorry about last night, she says. It's not a problem. I still shouldn't have done that, she says, tapping her fingers on the table, so I'm sorry. Why you're not angry? He shrugs, smiling. Chuckling, scratching the back of his head, he shakes his head and sighs. I don't know why you did that, he says, but I'm not angry. Okay? They continue eating, Shinji finding his gaze drawn towards her hands, out of curiosity. He's noticed the fidgeting, the tapping. Then he gets a look at her palms and sees the angry red lines running across them, the small marks. Then the phone rings. Sighing, he takes the phone, looks at the number, and clicks it on. Misato? Okay, I will clean up. Clicking off the phone, he turns back to dinner. Misato is going to be later than she thought, he says, her date's taking longer. I don't want to think about what that means, he sighs, I really don't. Especially since I've never been on a date myself. There wasn't really enough people around my aunt and uncle to consider that, and I'm ranting, aren't I? No, Asuka says, no, I've seen ranting. That's not ranting. He chuckles, nodding. Well, I guess it's just this city, he says, and our parents. If I didn't know better, I'd say my mom's already marked you as her daughter-in-law. Her face turns beet red as her utensils clatter to the plate. I said that out loud, didn't I? System login. Welcome, Dr. Ikari. Opening in chat room participants, Dr. Ikari, Miyaki. Miyaki? Yes. I would like to try work association. Please tell me what comes to your mind when I mention these names. Understood. Shinji. A person who wishes to be my friend. Asuka. Someone who Shinji wishes to help very much. Misato Katsuragi. Someone who wishes to take care of them. To be their big sister. Ritsuko Akagi. Nice lady. Much nicer than her mother. Takes care of me. Ray. Very strange. Feels strange around her. Know her face but not what it is. Okay. Who do you like more, Miyaki? Your mother or your father? Mommy. Why, Miyaki? Mommy cries about me when no one is looking. Hands braced on the catwalk, the Supreme Commander of Nerve narrows his eyes, staring at the purple mecha as lights shut off for the night shift. Leaning on his elbows, he feels the exhaustion in his bones and soul. Still altered, he listens to the footsteps on the catwalk and grins. Some habits never change. If I had my way, Gendo says, Unit 01 would be dismantled, destroyed, and its core shattered with a jackhammer. You still wouldn't do it, Kozu says, standing next to him, because you're less emotional than you. As much as you hate Unit 01, we still need it. It tried to murder you, Gendo growls, and we put our son in there to fight monsters. I have no love lost for that monstrosity. And no one blames you. But we work with the tools we are given. As it is, that monstrosity has destroyed 3 angels under the guidance of your son. The old man grins, chuckling. Maybe it's trying to make up for the past. We know it's intelligent. Do you think it has a conscience? Assigning emotions to a machine? Professor, I thought you were an academic. An academic who looks for the occasional challenge, Fuatsuki chuckles. Be honest, Ikari. My role is the sign-off on whatever budget expense UN needs for her latest project. I feel that we are both marginalized by the good doctor, who is in earshot and looking for her husband. Sneakers padding along the catwalk, Yu ambles her way over. Clapping her hands, she leans over and becks Kozu on the cheek before taking her husband's hand. Maya and Ritsuko are processing the sync tests, she says, so I think it's time for us to turn in. Don't you think so, dear? I'll agree to that, Gendo says with a smirk. Fuatsuki, handle the rest. The sub-commander of Nerve nods. Watching them walk away, he sighs, smirks, and turns on his heel. Lucky bastard, he says, and walks towards the lifts. Clicking her tongue, she waits for him to stir. As he does so, opening bleary eyes and finding his hands tied behind him, she smiles, reaches into her purse, and clicks the trigger of the stun gun, letting him watch the arching electricity. Hey there, Misato says, I drugged your wine. We're gonna have ourselves a conversation, aren't we? A small wave and a smile. He shudders. She's sober. She's dangerous when sober. Misato Katsuragi, she says, Tactical Commander to Nerve 1. Hi. Bu? Soa, what, a quadruple agent? Quintuple? Lost count? He chuckles, rolling his neck. Actually, he says, I'm taking orders from Commander Ikari. How about you? She sparks the stun gun again. He begins sweating as she hops off the table in the dark, empty room lit by a single swinging light bulb. Grimacing, she reaches into his pants pocket and takes out his wallet, flipping through cards. Well, F underscore? Taking out a Nerve ID card, she rolls her eyes. Yoji Kaji, Kaji says, Special Inspector to Nerve 1. Hi. La dee da dee dum da 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 dee dum dee dum. Re. The song's different, this time. Louder. Clicking her tongue in the rhythm, she She stands at the top of a mountain 3 miles outside of the Tokyo 3 limits. The lights of the city shine in the distance as she tilts her head, raising an eyebrow and perking her ear as Kensuke struggles up the last of the mountain. Ray, please tell me why we're here, he says, sitting on a flat rock. We've been wandering for 5 hours. I'm tired, I'm thirsty, and I'm sore. She smiles, turning to him. Folding her hands behind her, she looks around, ambles over, and sits next to him. So, she says, do you want to pilot? He turns to her. Sweat sheens his face, his hair is matted and his glasses are filthy. Sighing, he leans on his knees, groaning. I dunno, he says, well, I guess. I think the others are amazing, and I'd love to get up close to them. Okay, I guess I do. Why do you ask? Even if it's scary? She asks, like me? He laughs, nervously. You are not scary, Ray. She leans in. In the right light, Kensuke swears her eyes glow. Really? He can't remember how he slid off the rock. He just remembers falling onto the ground and finding Ray leaning over him, grinning. Pausing, eyes narrowed, she stands up and begins walking down the kill. Scrambling to his feet, he runs after her, skidding down the hillside. Ray, what is it? She pauses, stops. Sniffing the air, she closes her eyes. The grin, the smile, disappears. A small sound escapes her lips, like a breath run over the keys of an organ. Ray, now you're freaking me out, he says, walking up to her. Ray, what is it? What do you F_it? He takes his own life in his hand and grabs her arm. Her hands snap out, fingers splayed as she turns to him. The red of her eyes has spread over the entire eye, small dot-like pupils at the center. If possible, her skin has become even more pale, her hair stringy, the grip now on his arms tight and trembling. He's here, she whispers. What's here? He asks. The air around them shifts. Looking around, looking up, he sees a framework forming around them, forming into 6 great points in the shape of a massive diamond. Oh, God. Close, whispers, but a close second. Somehow, Shinji has found his hand wrapped around Asuka's, as they exit the hospital within sight distance of the Nerve 1 pyramid. She smiles, returning his, as they walk towards the escalator. Nozomi was beaming, did not hold a grudge, and an absolute terror in her wheelchair. The physical therapy was coming along well, and she was well within the prognosis of 3 months to a full recovery. That Hikari was there and happy to see them both made it even better. That she doesn't hold a grudge makes it right. So, he says, do you want to head back? I guess, Asuka says with a small smile, did you want to? Well, I do know there's a nice ramen stand near the apartment Misato likes, he says, want to grab some lunch? She blushes, before taking a deep breath and returning his smile. In the artificial light of the G-front, he finds her eyes more interesting than usual, almost sparkling during those rare moments she gives off her smiles. The movement of her lips, the pleasantness of her company, both are things he finds rare but valuable. It isn't like he's known many girls his age, though, except for Yuki. He knows she is odd, knows her quirks, but finds that the reward of the occasional smile makes their friendship all the more pleasant. That sounds nice, she says, The alarms whine. Shinji's phone rings, a text message rolling across the screen. Gritting his teeth, he growls, turning back to her. Angel alarm. IAM. Through license of WHO is called IAM. I have come. Though my feet shall never touch the base earth on this blessed quest, I have come. Mountains shall shatter in my passing. My song is the call of the end of days. In my passing shall a demon child of Lilith be excised from this world. I am the thunder of God. Angel of lightning. I am Ramiel. I have come.